Welcome to my channel, where the scariest stories come to life. Before we dive into today's chilling tale, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications, so you never miss a story. Now, let's get into the horror. I live in a neighborhood home with my older sister. We rent the place and split the bills. This was last October, as the weather was just starting to get colder. My sister had plans to meet up with some friends in Florida, so she would be gone for almost a whole week. She invited me, but I couldn't take the time off work. She left on Monday morning, which was a day I didn't work. I cleaned up the house and just enjoyed having some time alone. That same day, around 2, there was a knock at the door. I thought it was maybe a package my sister had ordered, so I answered it. It was an older man, maybe early 40s. He wasn't holding a package or anything. "Hi. How can I help you?" The man looked me in the eyes for an unsettling amount of time before answering. "Oh, I just wanted to see who lived here. Sorry. Didn't mean to bother you." He smiled and nodded, then walked away. I thought that was strange and wasn't really sure what he meant by that, but I closed the door and continued my day. As far as I was aware, nothing else happened for the rest of the evening. The following day, I had work, so I woke up early and headed to the office. I got back home at 6. Only a half hour later, while I was cooking dinner, there was a knock at the door again. I looked out the peephole before answering this time, and it was the same man from yesterday. He was easy to recognize because he wore the same exact clothes. I opened the door, though I was a bit more hesitant this time, only cracking it open. "Is everything okay?" He smiled and said, "Of course," as if I was being silly for asking that. He then said he was just checking in on me. The way he said it felt like it was expected or something. "Oh, are you a neighbor of mine?" "I didn't know," I said, assuming he must be one of those older, nosy neighbors. It still would be strange for him to check in on me, but that would explain it. "Oh, no, I was just walking around," he said. He was really starting to creep me out now. So I said I was fine and closed the door. I waited for him to leave my porch, then went back to cooking. I texted my sister that night, asking if she had ever encountered that man, but she said no and told me I was paranoid. The rest of the night, I felt safe inside my home. All the doors were locked and everything, but I also felt like I was being stalked and watched. What could that man possibly want that wasn't something creepy? The night passed again with no more signs of him, and the same with the following day. He didn't knock on the door, and I had hoped it might actually be nothing to worry about. The day after, I had off work, and it was the last day that my sister would be gone. I spent most of my time inside, just hanging out, reading, and watching YouTube. Every so often, I'd peek out the windows just to be cautious, but I never saw anything. Around 8, I was watching TV when I heard something scrape against the outside of the house. It sounded like a stick scratching along the siding. I quickly got up and opened the blinds, seeing the bush right under the window shaking. Faintly, I could hear footsteps running away. I couldn't see anything else in the dark, though. I felt like I was going to throw up. Surely it was the same man. But how long was he there? Was he sitting in the bushes trying to watch me through the window? I was so out of it, I didn't know what to do and ended up calling my sister. Luckily for me, she picked up. I tried to explain to her what was going on, but I think I was talking too fast for her to understand, and midway through the conversation, there was a knock at the door. I didn't answer, but the man started calling out and knocking louder. He asked me to let him in and tried to guilt-trip me by saying he was injured. Then he made excuses for being outside my home and started apologizing for everything. He continued to bang on the door. It was creepy and disturbing how desperate he was for me to open the door. Clearly, something was wrong with him. My sister told me to call 911 immediately, so I hung up and did as she said. The man stayed at the door for a whole 5 minutes, still trying to convince me to let him in before he finally left. What the man actually wanted is unknown, and how long he was stalking me for is also unknown. He could have somehow figured out my sister was gone for the week. It just seems like too big of a coincidence. Whatever the case, I haven't seen him at all since then. Hopefully it's over. I was at home with my dog, Hazel. It was a normal night. I had gotten out of work already and was just trying to enjoy the few hours I had before bed. I was watching TV and eating some snacks when Hazel got up and went to the back door, wanting to be let out. I let her outside to do her business. I had a pretty small, fenced-in backyard, so I never really needed to keep an eye on her. Usually, she'd stay out for a while and sniff around. While I was up, I put some dishes away and cleaned up the mess I made from cooking earlier. That's when Hazel started barking. She liked to bark at squirrels and stuff, but after a few seconds, she still hadn't let up. I walked over to the back door and opened it, seeing Hazel standing by the side of the fence and barking at it like something was on the other side. That side of the fence bordered the woods, so I thought maybe she'd seen a coyote or something. Just to be safe, I called her back inside. I got back on the couch and turned the TV on. Something was immediately different about Hazel, though. Usually, she'd lay on or next to me, but she was sitting on the edge of the couch, head perked up and staring at the back door. No matter how much I called her over, she'd just glance at me, then go back to watching. She stayed like this for the rest of the night. A couple of times I looked over, but I didn't see anything. I thought she was just in protective mode for some reason, which she does randomly. We stayed up for a bit, then went to bed at 10:30. Hazel usually sleeps at the end of my bed or in her doggy bed in the corner of the room. I always leave the bedroom door cracked open because her food and water are downstairs. When I woke up in the middle of the night, I noticed the bedroom door was wide open, much more than I had left it. Maybe she bumped into it. But she wasn't in the room, and I didn't hear her nails clicking on the wooden floor or the sound of her eating or drinking. On any other day, I probably would have just gone back to sleep and not worried about it, but something gave me a bad gut feeling. Even my body seemed to have fully woken up already. I got out of bed and looked out into the hallway. The house was quiet. Hazel? I walked down the steps and into the living room. Everything seemed normal, but all the food and water in her bowls were still full. At this point, everything was rushing through my mind. I was scared. Maybe somehow I left the back door open and she ran away or something, even though I knew I didn't. I walked into the kitchen, and my heart sank seeing Hazel crouched underneath the table, shivering and shaking, staring at me, completely terrified of something. I called her name again, and she didn't move. Then I noticed the back door was open. Everything started coming together in my mind. I didn't know what to do. I felt trapped, scared, and vulnerable. I hurried over to the table, picked Hazel up, and ran right out the back door. I left through the fence gate and ran to a neighbor's house. It took a minute, but eventually they woke up and answered the door, calling the police for me. When officers searched my home, they didn't find anyone. But there were a few signs of shoe prints around the house, some even being upstairs. That whole scenario is so confusing and left me with hundreds of questions and zero answers. I don't know who it was or why they broke in, or even how long they'd been inside. Were they the ones to open my bedroom door all the way? Were they hiding when I was looking for Hazel? Were they even still in the house? I almost wish I had encountered them before running away, just so I'd have some sort of answers. Now I'm left with nothing. I just have to live and hope it was some random thing, and that they don't come back. It was just before 2 a.m. and I had gotten an Uber back to my place after partying all night for New Year's. I don't think I was plastered or anything, but I definitely was well beyond tipsy, and I had a raging headache when I got dropped off. I slowly made my way up to the front door and fumbled around with my keys for way too long before making it inside. I tossed everything on the floor and took an ibuprofen, then fell over on the couch. I was exhausted, but the headache was keeping me from sleeping, so I kind of just laid there with my eyes closed for a while. I honestly have no idea how long. Randomly, though, the doorbell rang. It rang several times, and I never got up to answer the door or even see who it was. At the moment, I didn't even care or think about it. I just wanted to lay there and try to sleep and not be bothered. Obviously, with it being the middle of the night, someone ringing my doorbell repeatedly should be pretty concerning. But like I said, I had a bit too much to drink. Surprisingly, not too long after they stopped ringing the doorbell, I actually managed to pass out on the couch. I couldn't say how long I was asleep for, but when I woke up, I was very groggy and felt weak, still with a pounding headache, and the whole house was dark. I stood up and tried to make my way to the kitchen to get a glass of water when I noticed a streak of light on the wall in the hallway. Even in my not-so-sober state, it was unmistakable what it was. The light was coming from the front door being partially open and moonlight spilling into the house. Was I really so drunk that I didn't close the door? There was no way. Before I could even walk into the hallway and look at the door, footsteps moved around upstairs. I froze, then hurried back to the couch and ducked behind it. There were 2 sets of footsteps walking right above me. I thought about making a run for it, but my hesitation ruined my chances. As the footsteps began making their way down the stairs, there was a pause, then the sound of the front door shutting, and the streak of light disappeared. "All right, let's get on with it," a man spoke. I was completely sobered up now and realized they probably had just gotten inside moments before I woke up and immediately checked the bedrooms upstairs. Not seeing anyone, they assumed the place was empty. My chest felt like it was burning from how fast my heart was racing. The men moved around in the room on the other side of the house and began chatting like everyday regular talk about life. I don't know, but something about it was so disturbing and terrifying. I mean, if they were so comfortable breaking into my home and having casual conversations while doing so, then what the hell were they going to do if they found me? I could hear them taking things, robbing all the rooms in the house, before the footsteps made their way into the living room. The way I had it set up, the couch was diagonal in the corner, so I was kind of closed off behind it, but the couch was also short, so if they got close to it, they would easily be able to see me. I just listened as they walked around, moving things and opening every drawer and box they saw. Then one of the men started walking closer to the couch. I hoped and waited for their footsteps to stop or change directions, but they kept coming closer and closer until I saw their head show above me. They were looking down at the cushions, though, and I guess they didn't see me in their line of vision. Then they moved on to the next room. I sat there motionless for almost 30 minutes, listening to them rummage through the entire house before they finally left. I didn't hear them say anything about coming back, but I grabbed my phone and ducked back behind the couch as I called the cops. The situation is mostly exactly what it seems like. The men came in and robbed the valuables from my home. I had forgotten to lock the front door, but there's some evidence that it wouldn't have mattered. A neighbor said they saw 2 men watching my house rather suspiciously over the course of the past week. Likely, they saw that I lived alone and always parked in the driveway. So when I took my car to the New Year's party and came back in an Uber without my car, they thought I wasn't home. Thankfully, it seems they only intended to rob me and nothing more. But had they found me, who knows what could have happened. Thanks for sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to give the video a like and leave a comment with your thoughts. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a terrifying tale. See you in the next one.